The woman confesses that she imagined this scenario several times, the day they would meet again, and every time she pictured it, she felt calm. She wasn't nervous, but despite imagining it hundreds of times, it's still very difficult for her. Both are in complete silence until her superior explains that she is the new editor on the production team, introducing her as Jung-oh. He understands and greets her, saying it is a pleasure to meet her, immediately introducing himself. His response after such a long time. Elsewhere, a boy is crying, yelling that he doesn't want to go and that it's boring, complaining that he wants to go home, but his mother informs him that when they return home, he will be in big trouble. But then he says she told him that Go classes would be fun, but they're boring. His mother replies that he was the one who said he wanted to attend Geo classes, and besides, she has already paid for everything, asking why he changed his mind. That's how they both enter, and later his mother asks him to learn something for 30 minutes, promising to let him play video games for the same amount of time in return. But he asks for an hour. Something his mother agrees to. After that, she wonders if she did the right thing, as she bribed him with video games again. In class, a girl approaches him and asks him to stop crying. She asks him to extend his hand, and when he asks why, she replies for him to stay still, then starts placing the stones in his hand. He questions what she is doing, but the girl responds that if he drops them, she will flick his forehead. They exchange glances as she introduces herself as Lee Yina and asks for his name. The boy responds that he is Park Dobin. She asks if he goes to Oriole school, to which he asks how she knows that. She replies that she saw his name on his backpack yesterday, making the boy wonder if she's been watching him since then. Then, the girl shows the stones and asks which he wants to be, and Dobin chooses the black stones. She then places her white stone and asks if he knows what to do next. Awakening his competitive side, they play, and seeing this, the girl asks why he cries if he knows how to play, telling him not to cry. This awakens something in the boy, who thinks he has never met a girl like her in his 6 years of life. After 30 minutes, his mother waits for him and wonders if he's been crying the entire time. Then he comes out, saying goodbye with a smile and greeting his mom. She asks if he had fun, something the boy confirms. Hearing this, she wants to know what was the most fun. But the boy asks if she fell in love with his father at first sight. She questions if he knows what that means. He replies that he does and thinks he just experienced that today. Moreover, he tells his mother that he will now work hard in Geo classes. Elsewhere, Young Ji-hoon is working and then wonders why he is so bothered, thinking about the editor and asking himself what her name was, confessing that she makes him feel uncomfortable. That's when the leader of the second team enters, handing the man the list of new members who joined. The man, seeing the names, asks if the new editor underwent a physical exam before joining the company, something the woman confirms, as it is mandatory. But the boss confesses that she seemed like she was about to faint and might have a health problem. The leader reflects that she got better when she moved away from him and suggests that maybe she was nervous since he is an imposing figure, but the man asks if it seems like he was joking, slightly scaring the woman. Then he asks her to bring the assistant. In Lee Jung-oh's workspace, Mr. Ki-hoo is teaching her how to send work. She only needs to place it in the shared folder on the computer. The woman asks if it's secure, as her previous job used the cloud for storage and sharing. He assures her it's safe since all the folders are password protected. She understands and thanks him for the help. That's when the team leader arrives to inform her that Director Jung wants to see her, asking her to follow. However, the woman says she can go alone. The leader, shaking her head, says she'll protect her, but warns her to be careful since he's very intense. Jung-oh wonders what's happening. A moment ago, he acted like they were complete strangers. She questions whether he's going to ask her to resign, and if it's just because she might be an obstacle in his life. Upon entering, the director approaches and asks if she's okay. The woman nods. He then says she seemed uncomfortable when they met, asking if she's disappointed because she's not working at the company she applied for. But the woman wonders why he called her just to say that. He then asks if she'll be able to do the job properly today, to which she affirms. He smiles and states he thought she'd respond better, considering she's a writer. The woman questions if he only called her to criticize, then responds that she'll be diligent in her work and give it her best effort, something he expects. After that moment, he's getting ready to leave when someone enters, asking if he's heading home. The man asks him to act as usual, but his friend says it feels wrong to do so now that they're far away. The director asks if he wants the office next to his. This excites the young man, who asks not to be scared like that since those jokes shouldn't be made. He believes everything he's told. The director asks if he's afraid of what he says, something the young man confirms, adding that he's also scared when he asks questions. Hearing this, the director falls silent. His friend asks if something's wrong, to which the director replies that a new employee started, and her face went pale when she saw him. His friend understands, knowing that some people react that way when they see him. But the young man reflects on how the director stared at her, so he decides to ask if assistant Lee Jung-oh is beautiful. Concluding from his avoidance of the question, he thinks something must really be happening. Immediately after, he asks if the director doesn't want to go to his house, but Ji-hoon asks why he would. His friend says his mother idolizes him and had asked to invite him over sometime. She also wants to introduce him to some relatives so he can marry soon. But Ji-hoon responds that he's heard that many times and bids his friend goodbye. Getting into a car waiting for him, he thinks about how, in a life where he only has to pretend, even after losing 3 years of memory, there's no effort required, leaving him bored. Arriving home, the man can't get Lee Jung out of his head, reflecting that if he had to choose an ideal type of woman, he'd choose her. He thinks of her name while house. Then, when he's already on the couch, someone enters. Seeing who it is, he's surprised and asks what's going on and how they got in. The woman runs up to him, throwing herself at him, staring at him, and kissing him, then kissing him again, to which he responds. But unfortunately, it was all a dream. He wakes up a bit startled, thinking he might be a little crazy. Elsewhere, Lee Jung is angry and thinks he only calls her to the office to tell her that. Arriving at her building, she considers that he is not the same as the one she once knew, but then believes he was a fake. But she no longer cares, as she has Yena, who greets her immediately upon entering her home. The two embrace warmly, and Young's mother asks if she wasn't working overtime, but the woman denies it since it was her first day. Then she asks her daughter how her day went and if she had fun. The girl mentions that she met someone her age at the academy. This makes her mother happy, and she asks if they are already friends, which the girl denies, adding that he still doesn't know how to play Go. Her mother asks what the boy's name is. Yena responds that it is Park Dobin, surprising her mother as it is a boy. The girl also says that the boy's mom was at the academy today and yesterday, and assumes she will also go tomorrow. Her mother asks if she is jealous of Dobin, but the little one says no, just a little. Hearing this, her mother hugs her, apologizes, and reflects that she wished she could have given her a father. Then she wonders if he knows he fathered Yena, or if he thinks he gave her up. Then she believes he has other women thinking so and questioning whether she should leave. In a grand mansion while eating, Ji-hoon complains of pain in his shoulder. His mother asks if he feels any pain, and he replies that he didn't sleep well, but the truth is, he fell off the couch while sleeping. His father tells him to be careful with his behavior in front of the employees to avoid misunderstandings. Then he asks how the new job is going and if he can manage. He says yes and asks where his brother went, to which he replies that he had a business trip scheduled. At another moment, the young man reflects that he feels strange when he returns to his parents' home, as he has memories from his youth, but nothing from the last 7 years, and this fact impacts him. Just then, his mother enters the room where he is and asks what he is doing. He replies that he was just looking for his father, but the lady informs him that he went to work because he was busy. Something her son says is the same, but before leaving, he asks what happened during the 3 years of memories he lost. The woman, somewhat embarrassed, replies that he went to military service and besides that, everything was the same. He wonders if he really did, to which his mother responds that maybe it is a sign not to remember. To this, he agrees. Then his mother walks up to him and, pointing to his forehead, says that there used to be a red mark there and that she could guess his mood by that mark since when he was angry, the mark stood out. He remembers that and how he used to cover the mark with his bangs, so his mother says that if something bad happens, he should talk to her. He agrees, only to receive a hug from his mother, who says he is her only son and that she loves him. At Mac's company, Lee Jung arrives somewhat tired, greeted with a good morning by Ki-hoon, who arrived early as he is a new employee. Additionally, he asks if she wants to accompany him to the lounge to learn how the coffee machine works, which she accepts, taking her thermos. However, someone greets her and asks if she remembers them. Then they say they are Chae Eun-bi. The woman replies that she remembers her since there is no way she could forget her. AUNB then says it's nice to see her again and asks if things are going well, to which Young confirms. Then her supposed friend says she is also an editor and immediately asks how many years of experience she has. Young replies that she has 1 year. Eunbi, somewhat surprised, asks what she was doing before, then smiles and highlights that she is the manager. In a memory of Ji-hoon, she recalls that Eunbi was in the same class as her during their first year of middle school. Eunbi asks if she wants a lipstick she's holding, mentioning that she hasn't used it yet. Ji-hoon responds no, as she doesn't use makeup, but Eunbi insists, saying that Ji-hoon has a pretty face and that with a little makeup she'd look even more beautiful. She also points out that the lipstick is designer, as a way to convince her. Despite this, Ji-hoon refuses again, stating that she doesn't need makeup. The situation doesn't go unnoticed by their classmates, who seem to notice Eunbi's displeasure at the rejection. That was the only interaction they had. Later in the school cafeteria, Ji-hoon's mother thanks them for the food and mentions they'll see each other later. Closely. She also notices how Ji calls the woman mom. Starting to serve, the woman wipes her forehead with her sleeve, a gesture Eunbi observes closely. Because of this, Eunbi calls the lady's attention and asks why she's serving food with sweaty hands, implying it's unhygienic. Then she demands that she change her gloves. Ji-hoon's mother, visibly uncomfortable, apologizes and assures she'll change them immediately. Later, the lady clarifies that she didn't wipe her head with her hands, but with her sleeve. Before serving the young woman her food, the lady accidentally hits her hand on the plate, causing it to fall to the ground. Immediately, the supervisor appears and asks what's going on. Eunbi's friends explain that the student complained about the lady's poor hygiene, who, according to them, reacted by throwing the plate. Hearing this, the woman denies the accusation and assures it's all a misunderstanding. Despite this, Eunbi intervenes and asks the lady to apologize, arguing that adults must act maturely. The woman's daughter, witnessing the situation, tries to get up to help her mother, but the lady gestures with her head for her not to approach. In the end, the lady apologizes but also decides to quit her job in the cafeteria. Over time, everyone finds out that the lady is Ji-hoon's mother. This sparks rumors that the young woman was eating leftovers from the cafeteria food. Even so, Yoonbi maintains a haughty attitude in front of her friends, pretending to be kind and understanding. Back in the present, Ji-hoon asks if the woman is the manager. She confirms and reminds him to use the proper honorifics at work. Before saying goodbye, she mentions they'll see each other often. This leaves Ji-hoon in a state of shock, sitting down to reflect. He now has one more reason to consider quitting the job, even thinking about drafting his resignation letter. However, before taking any action, he receives a call. It's Seung-gyu Park from the HR department, asking him to stop by his office for a moment. While walking there, Ji-hoon wonders why they're calling him again. Upon arrival, Seung-gyu tells him to come in and close the door. Once inside, he informs him there will be an adjustment to his current salary. He shows him the new amount and adds that the terms of his contract will also be updated. When asked if he agrees, Ji-hoon nods and signs the documents. At that moment, he considers that maybe the company isn't so bad after all and decides to endure a little longer. After that, Seung-gyu asks him to complete a form, which includes a section on family relations. Out of discretion, Ji-hoon chooses not to mention Yena and writes that he is not married. After dealing with the paperwork, Ji-hoon reflects that the company is a good place to build his career. He also appreciates its convenient location. For now, he plans to work there for a few years, though he knows he must avoid Ji-haeon and Eunbi at all costs. It's at that moment when, to his bad luck, he sees the man he most wants to avoid. Without thinking, he hides while watching him interact with a group of children visiting the company. Apparently, a local school had organized the excursion. Ji-hoon is surprised to notice that Ji-haeon seems to get along well with the kids. The children's teacher thanks him for the invitation, while Ji-haeon tells them he hopes they enjoyed the experience. Then, kindly, he directs them toward the auditorium. Before leaving, the teacher gives them a gift bag, cookies baked by the children and handmade cards. Ji-haeon smiles and thanks them, courteously saying goodbye to the kids. However, as he turns away, he does something that completely unsettles Ji-hoon. He attempts to throw the gift bag into a nearby trash can. Without thinking, Ji-hoon runs toward him to stop him. Upon reaching him, with a mix of anger and confusion, she can't help but wonder how the father of her daughter could be so inconsiderate. Finally, with a voice full of indignation, she blurts out, "How can you even think of throwing them away?" The man frees himself from Ji-hoon's grip, only to catch her again and announce that now they are going to talk. However, his friend sees him and, confused, asks what he is doing. Immediately after, he grabs his arm and reminds him they will be late. Before leaving, Assistant Lee quickly apologizes to Ji-hoon and promises to contact her later as they enter the elevator. Inside the elevator, his friend scolds him, saying this will cause problems. He asks what he was thinking by grabbing an employee's wrist and warns him that he cannot behave like that. The director tries to justify his actions by talking about the woman, but his friend becomes even angrier about how he refers to her, corrects him, saying her name is Jung-go. Despite this, the director insists that she addressed him informally, as if that justified his behavior. After the whole scene, Ji-hoon returns to her workspace feeling upset. She thinks that everything he had shown her was a facade and cannot help but feel deceived. As she tries to calm down, her phone rings. Upon answering, she realizes it's Jung-go's assistant, who apologizes for the director's attitude. The assistant explains that he has been close friends with the director since high school and was also his superior during military service. He assures her that he is there to help if anything else happens and apologizes again for the director's inappropriate behavior. After hanging up, she feels the call was uncomfortable and wishes to go home. Just then, the team manager arrives, reminding her about the planning meeting for Daewon Liquors, which she must attend. The assistant feels like she's about to lose control, assuming the meeting is being organized along with Eunbi's team. At the meeting, the manager announces that the liquor planning will be carried out by 2 production teams. She also takes the opportunity to introduce the team's new writer. Before Young can introduce herself, her supposed friend expresses joy, commenting that she couldn't handle all the writing alone and hopes to work with her soon. After the introductions, the meeting proceeds peacefully and productively, until a young man asks if Young has a boyfriend. She denies it, though in her mind she confesses she has a daughter. Eunbi, on the other hand, asks if she can take charge of the main script, something Young considers irrelevant. At the end, the manager announces they will try to move forward with the discussed points, and the next meeting will be scheduled for the following Tuesday. Eunbi steps forward to ask the manager if she is tired. The woman admits she is and curiously asks Eunbi when she plans to get married. Eunbi responds that her mother wants her to marry this year, but she's unsure as she's too busy. After that, they both say goodbye as they head to lunch. At that moment, the manager calls Assistant Lee and begins to comment that she saw her holding the director in front of the elevator. The assistant confirms the incident, leading the manager to ask if it was because he threw away the gift the children had given her. Young deduces that the manager witnessed everything. The manager admits that she also didn't find the director's actions appropriate, but assures her she understands, since his situation is different from theirs. Young doesn't understand what she means, so the manager explains that the director was involved in a hit-and-run accident. Because of this, the company tried to keep the matter secret. Additionally, the director was severely injured and also lost his memory. Upon hearing this, Young is paralyzed, and the manager informs her that he lost 3 years of his memories. She believes the incident happened 5 years ago. That's why she thinks he has become more cautious since the accident. The same goes for the cookies, as it's hard to trust food prepared by strangers, as eating them could pose a risk. Young, trembling, asks if she knows when the accident happened. The manager asks for a moment and, searching on her phone, finds an article about the incident. She explains that his family blocked most of the reports, but this is one of the few remaining. Young looks at the date on the article and realizes it matches the day he promised to pick her up to go to the hospital together. The manager asks if she is okay, to which the assistant nods and thanks her for the information before running out. While running, she wonders if he really forgot her. The woman rushes to the director's secretary's office and asks if he is available. The secretary informs her that he is with a visitor on the first floor. Hearing this, Young immediately heads there. She cannot believe he really forgot everything about them, and about Yana. She questions how he could forget her. She spots him and stares at him intently. Noticing her gaze, the man turns his head to avoid her, but after a moment he looks back at her. Young, with determined steps, walks toward him. Standing face to face, she wonders how much damage he must have suffered to reach the point of losing his. Then, she asks him if he knows who she is. He responds affirmatively, saying she is the writer, Assistant Lee. Hearing this, Young asks what else he remembers about her while thinking about her newborn daughter. However, before she can continue, someone calls the man. Turning around, Young finds herself facing Eunbi, the harpy. Eunbi, in a defiant tone, comments that she once mentioned that she and Assistant Lee were friends in high school. Then she asks if something is wrong, leaving Jung filled with uncertainty. And with that, we've reached the end of this week's chapter. If you made it all the way to the end, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this chapter in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe so our community can keep growing and we can reach more fans like you. See you in the next video. In the meantime, if you're from the near future, I'll leave you the next chapter and a comic you're sure to enjoy. Thank you for being part of this adventure.